Welcome to this week's episode of Undisputed MMA.
Good, so most South Africans know you from obviously fighting on the reality show The Fighter.
Yeah.
But just give us a bit of background on how it all started for you, young Wil Fleury, how you got into fighting.
Right, so my career started in fighting. My career started about 8 years ago, kind of mid-2010. I played rugby for about 12 years, broke my foot, and while I was doing the rehab for that, the physio was trying to get me into boxing, and then eventually I went to a gym where they had the cage, saw the cage and was like, right, want to do this, and that was in Cork in Ireland, and then slowly just progressed up through the ranks, I suppose, and just kept whooping everybody's ass, and here we are. And then I was playing rugby down in Cork where I was going to college, and I was kind of playing with two. There was a thing like dual status you could do, so I could play senior with one club and junior with another. And Cork are quite a good senior club, so I was trying to break into that team while I was playing junior with Clanwilliam, who'd be my hometown team. They're in Tipperary Town. But then got a pretty bad injury and had a few pretty bad injuries, and I really just thought, like, right, my effort here doesn't seem to be getting rewarded, and in an individual sport I think I'll do pretty well. So I got drawn into the boxing, and I always kind of like the concept of fighting and like the concept of like that mentality. And then I was only 20, so it was kind of an easy way to get sucked into it, I suppose.
And then the boxing, how long did you box before you actually moved over to MMA?
Not long, like 2-3 months, and I never I have fought boxing a few times, but I'd never fought boxing before I got into MMA. You know, I didn't have a boxing fight before I started training in MMA.
And then your MMA journey, where it started, how you got into SBG, and then obviously getting into the fighter series.
So my MMA journey, I've been a long time around and in a lot of places. I trained in Cork for 4 years. So from 2010 to 2014, I trained in Cork with a gym called the MMA Clinic, which then became Trials. So the guy who set up the MMA Clinic originally, he sold it out to a couple of guys who were head coaches there, because he was kind of running it as a business, and it was good. He had good coaches over with Jake Hecht from the UFC. So he sold that on. The coaches started running it. It was Trials for about 2 years, and then it became Samson, and I left kind of shortly after it became Samson. But in between, it's complicated, because for about 2 years in between that, I'd finished my degree in college, and I lived in London, and I trained in London Shoot. And that was a hell of an experience. I think that's what kind of made me a fighter as such, because training over there, we were getting good training. We were UFC standard kind of, we were training with Jake, obviously, but once I got over there, it was a kind of a new level and a new intensity to it, and it was kind of you're either in this game or you're not, and this is the fight life. It's a hard life, and most can't take it. So I was there for about 1.5 to 2 years. Then I came back to Cork, and I was living in Cork again for a year, and in the meantime the gym had become Samson, but it was the same group of guys basically. And about a year after I'd had my pro debut out of there, and about a year into that, I was because that was it, I'd made MMA my thing at that stage. I was working as a surveyor over in London. It was tough, and I basically I did that life for a while, had the office job and tried training on the side, and was trying to keep that intensity, and I was fighting a lot. But then once everything it just kind of became you're either going to have to choose one way or the other, and I'm a mad bastard, so I chose to fucking beat the shit out of people for shit money.
Once a fighter, always a fighter.
Yeah, just gets into your soul, I suppose.
And then how did the signing on to the reality show The Fighter come about?
Basically in Ireland in the last 3 years I've had about 10 pullouts, and even in shows in England. So it's been very hard to get guys to fight me, just because I had an impressive amateur record, and then a low level pro there just wasn't that many middleweights around, and then a higher level guy, they don't want to take that risk. So I was finding it hard to get fights. I was actually originally signed up with Brave, I thought, last year. Then I had to pull out on Ikram, the guy who Chad is fighting, last April, and I thought they were going to put me on a card, and that was frustrating, because I assumed I'd have another fight again in a month. It was a sartorius tendon tear, and it was just here, give this 2 weeks and it's grand. And I'd been waiting so long for a fight at that stage, But they were like, no, don't worry, we'll have you on a card soon. So all summer I was waiting for these guys to get back to me. Nothing. And in the meantime, John had contacted me saying that there's a reality show in Africa if you want that. And I was like, well, that's guaranteed. I've been waiting on these lads for a while. So that eventually came up and that happened. And then there was a shitload of controversy obviously with that as well. But there, I whooped everyone's ass who they allowed me to whoop, and then went down there again in December and whooped some more ass, and here tonight I'm gonna whoop some ass tomorrow too.
And for those that don't know, obviously you didn't win the show, but there was a bit of controversy on how you got knocked out of the show.
Well, I feel like I won the show, to be honest. Like, I think if you're calling Brendan Lazard a winner, that's a guy who kind of, if they have footage of me beating the piss out of him pretty easily. Yeah, it's very frustrating. I still actually like get angry when I think about that whole situation and what happened there. But basically, time tells all. Look, you know, you can't deny class, and I'm gonna whoop this lad, whoop the next couple of lads. You know, none of this shit will matter in a couple of months, I suppose, but it does still rankle with me. Like, I went down there to win that show, and I feel like the way that it all fucking happened and the way I got knocked out and all that, it's bollocks. Like, you know, that was straight up DQ. Like, that, like, and I get it. I get that they can't let you fight if they think you're concussed, but at the same time, let me fight the winner, or let me fight somebody again. There was so many other options there than the option they chose, and I'm still pissed over it. But look, I was happy enough to come back and knock shit out of Gordon, and if they get me somebody else again, I'm happy enough to come back and keep plowing through guys, like.
And then now obviously you're fighting in Jordan on Brave 10. Know anything, give us a bit of background on the opponent and the Brave promotion as well?
Yeah, so Tariq, he seems like a Thai boxer, kind of wannabe grappler. Trains out of Tiger Muay Thai. He's, 6-4, is he? I watched his last victory. He caught the guy with a heel hook when the guy just had no clue what the fuck was going on. So yeah, look, he's been talking a little bit of shit online. He says he's going to expose me. Brilliant. Let's see what happens when we're in my actual cage. Yeah, pretty much that. I don't feel like this is going to be a difficult fight, to be honest. The hard part was making weight. Like, I came in here pretty big and I've made the weight now, and I'm just looking forward to whooping his ass.
Well, for all those South Africans and Africans that actually be watching the show, you want to send a message out to them as well?
Yeah, I've gotten some really cool messages off South African fans. And like, I'm surprised, like, a lot of people on Instagram straight away once that episode aired over there, because I knew it was airing there that night. I was kind of like, I hadn't actually physically got to watch the episode yet, so I was wondering how they'd present it and if they'd make me look like the bad guy or whatever happened. Now, I've seen it since, but that night I just knew, because fucking 20 people messaged me on Instagram being like, what the fuck? That was absolute bullshit. What did they do, man? And I liked the way, like, the show was edited quite strangely in some ways, and it, like, there was a lot of natural drama on that show, and it could have been like, you know, it could have been very naturally dramatic if they just showed what had actually happened. You know, there was so much stuff with, like, Zwandili getting pulled out, Mike getting pulled out, then the me and Shaw thing, and like even the natural kind of different characters, because it was like the United Nations in there, as in everyone from every corner of the world was there. So if they just let it be shown the way it happened, that was drama enough, and it would have been a really interesting show. Obviously, executives get involved and producers, and they're like, oh, we're going to show this angle and show this. And it was all these really edited kind of scenes. With my being kicked out of the house, I'm surprised, but they didn't edit any of that. So, like, what happened there, it's real as fuck. That's the way it actually went down. And, like, I'm fair play to them for letting it be shown the way it is, because I think the vast majority of people are like, yeah, you got screwed. And like, if you've watched that show, you'll kind of go like, well, this lad's after getting a really raw deal here. So fair play to them for showing it the way it was. And yeah, I don't know. Just again, like, I do get actually worked up when I think about it still. Like, it does just rankle with me. Like, I went down there to win that. Everything else I've set my fucking sights on and it's actually happened, I've done, like. And for people to go like, oh yeah, but you didn't win the show. It's like, yeah, but I fucking did, like. You know, in my mind, I won that fucking show. I'll beat the piss out of any of them other 9 lads, like, you know. So, yeah, it rankles with me still. And, like, I'd love to have that contract, and I'd love to be fighting Dricus. And now they can manipulate that situation to be whatever they want it to be. they shouldn't be allowed to. Like, they shouldn't be able to. It was just some cunt elbows in the back of the head a lot of times. Now they have that opportunity. And look, part of me is like, well, I shouldn't have let him elbow my head 10 times. But the much bigger part of me is like, any reasonable human being can see that's a bullshit situation. So, I'm here, I'm in Jordan, I'm whooping some other cunts. So, fair enough.
Well, good luck for tomorrow night.
Cheers,
we'll be there watching,
Thank you.
We'll bring the highlights to you later in the show.